I believe I have some understanding for what Mario was just sharing, and a word of encouragement for you who are traveling to South Africa. No revelation in this that the shofar is known as the voice of God. I believe what Mario was seeing is that it only takes the one. He wasn't seeing thousands of shofars being sounded. There was only 120 at the dedication of the temple, but one. The voice of God, whether it's through one or a million, has the same effect and the same power.
Yeah.
And that as you go to South Africa, the voice of God is the voice of truth. It's the voice of revelation. It is indeed the voice of life from the dead. And so as you worship, pray, speak, declare, prophesy there in South Africa, don't be concerned about the numbers, whether it's the numbers of you that are there or the numbers who attend. It only takes one. We heard just a few minutes ago, one small stone in the right hand brings down a giant. And so be encouraged that what you're doing is carrying the voice of life to South Africa, where there has been death and destruction and strife and pride and anger and hatred. And your voices, your voice, the singular voice, as you agree, Matthew 18 and 19, yeah? As you agree together, is the voice of life there. I've only been to Johannesburg one time. It was in a very large Dutch Reformed church, which doesn't actually have a great reputation for being pro-Israel, pro-Zion, pro-Jewish people, or pro-African. Anyway, we had such resistance. I had a whole team there, and dancers from Africa joined us, and a messianic rabbi and pastor. We had such resistance that in this huge church, we couldn't get on a Sunday morning. The sound system refused to cooperate, so that 5 minutes before the service is supposed to start, and there's 5, 6, 7,000 people in the auditorium, we had no way to communicate with the people. And at the sound of the shofar, all of a sudden, the sound system came to life, and we had an amazing time. So trust in what the Lord gives you. Be bold, and don't be afraid, and don't be ashamed. Be wise as serpents, but gentle as doves. Remembering that in John 17, our unity together is the demonstration to the world. Notice there, as Jesus is praying in John 17, he doesn't say that our unity together is the demonstration to Israel that he's the Messiah, but he includes Israel in that, and he says that your love and unity together demonstrates to the world that the Father has sent me. So there is a power, an unseen, mystical, the mystery of unity in our worship and prayer together that may not be seen or felt all the time, but it's still there. It's still active. Whether you sense it or not, it's still there.
Amen.
Two more things real quickly. Reinhard Bonnke, who loved Africa, everybody knows his name because of the ministry that he had there on the entire continent. Maybe greater than anyone before or since has had in Africa. And I heard this not from him, but from his son-in-law, Ari Sokaram, who's a dear friend. And anyway, he prayed and prayed and prayed, Lord, give me Africa. Give me Africa. And he fasted and he prayed and heard nothing from heaven for quite a while. And he would pray every day. This was before he set foot in Africa. And he continued to pray, Lord, give me Africa. And one day, the Spirit of God broke into his prayers and said, if you will pray for Jerusalem, I will give you Africa. There is a connection in the heart of God, back all the way to Genesis 12:3, which people may be tired of hearing. I'll bless those who bless you, I'll curse those who curse you, but it's still just as alive as it was when God spoke it. His word is powerful, active. It separates between the lie and the truth and the soul and the spirit, which is where every time we talk about Jerusalem, we can get hung up with between the soul and spirit, and we just really need to be discerning there. And so be very confident that as you go and speak the truth in South Africa, that this mystery of unity, of Echad, the mystery of Echad, which I have to write a small article on. It's so strong. It's what we operate out of, and it brings the power and authority as we gather together. Anyway, one last thing. Before October 7th last year, I had a team in Uganda. And maybe you've heard this, but this is the connection between us, Africa, and the Alliance and Netherlands. It still amazes me today. But before October 7th last year, I had a team. I was asked to come and lead worship. Before I went, I got a small word from heaven that sounded ridiculous to me. And if we equate it to what Mario was sharing a few minutes ago, I was a single shofar. I had no idea there were going to be 20,000 people there, but that number doesn't make any difference. It's the power of the life of the word sounded from the shofar, which is, we are living shofars. When we open our mouths in praise, prayer, declaration, we become the voice of life into our society, into our nations, into our homes, into the people we're ministering to, into ourselves. And the word I got before I went to Uganda, which I didn't really want to go. It's a long ways, it's a tiring trip. I didn't know who I was going to be with. It was just one of those huge question marks. The Lord spoke to me in prayer and said, tell Uganda, the curse is broken. Now make peace with Jerusalem. I had no idea what that meant. He revealed it to me as I traveled, but to make this brief. So I got up on the platform and I began to feel the weight of this word. The curse is broken. I'm speaking to 20,000 people, telling them who are passionate lovers of Jesus. I'm telling them you've been laboring under a curse since 1967. And all of a sudden, fear came over me, and I wasn't going to say it until we got to the very last song that I had the time given to me on the platform. And before I did the downstroke on that song, the Lord shouted at me, "Now." So I opened my mouth and did the boo boo boo, which in this case was to declare to the people, I declare to you today, the curse is broken. Now make peace with Jerusalem. 20,000 people stood up and shouted and danced and celebrated. I was shocked at the response. Fast forward to January of this year, and we were all there in the Netherlands for the conference, and in The Hague there was a meeting of the International Tribunal that were going to declare that Netanyahu and the leaders of Israel were war criminals and should be arrested, and you know how that all goes. They all gathered to take their votes, but it has to be unanimous. You can't So anyway, it came to a vote, and there was one vote that caused the whole thing to fall apart. It was a woman judge from Uganda who wasn't there at the meeting where the word was declared, but the word had effect in the whole nation to the point where the only judge, international judge, who stood against this judgment against Jerusalem was from Uganda, where the curse had been broken. Now make peace with Jerusalem. I want you to know there is power and authority when we agree together. Jew and Gentile, we are the demonstration that Jesus is Lord. Whether we're 1 or 20,000, it just doesn't matter. The word of life always breaks through the curse. The word of life always breaks through the darkness, and it always does what he sends it to do.